Hey everyone, welcome back to the Promised Land podcast, a bonus edition of the show, which I'm dubbing TPLQA. I'm thinking maybe that this one I can do relatively regularly, providing your comments and your questions keep coming in. It's something I definitely like to do. And I figure as a nice bonus and as a nice way of, talking to you guys, I think this might be a good thing to do because I'd certainly like to say thank you to everyone who continually gets in touch with the show and with me, supports the show and supports me as well. And your comments and engagements and like great insights are, to be fair, really, really important as well, and gives me ideas. And I'd really like to, make you guys feel like you're a part of it as well, if that actually happens and that it makes you feel like that. So yeah, consider this as a TPLQA episode 1. Although I think in the past I have done something like this. Maybe I did it with Rob here and there. I can't remember. We did a lot of shows, but we're approaching in the next week or two, probably the next week actually, the 300th episode of the show, and I'm thinking there may be some things that I'll change from that point on, and definitely some of your feedback that you've been giving me in the comments over the last few weeks is being taken into account, and I'll maybe address some of that today as well. I'm not gonna, if you're watching me on YouTube, I'm probably going to be looking away, reading out your questions, which I've compiled. And I'm trying to, what I've been doing recently is, if you watch on YouTube, I've been moving my home desk around and trying to sort out the right camera shot, that kind of thing. I'm thinking, do I need to upgrade on the camera? That kind of thing. I've bought some lights and stuff. And right at the start of this show, the light that I was using to make the lighting better has just run out of charge. So fantastic, but it is what it is. Anyway, this is something I want to do pretty frequently, I would think. And maybe I'm dropping this on a Saturday morning, and United play on Sunday night this weekend. So I'm thinking maybe as a way to round off the week, as a mailbox TPLQA kind of show, maybe a Saturday morning is a good shout for this. Unless there's other things happening, of course, and maybe things will change. But yeah, maybe I can use this as an update to let you know how I'm feeling, answer your questions, read out your comments, say thank you again, and we can see where we go with this. I've been taking and collating comments mainly from the YouTube channel, but I've also noticed that Spotify comments are on as well. And I think one of the first ones I'll get to in a second. A lot of this feedback and these comments have been really nice, and really, really appreciate that. But also, if you do have negative feedback or constructive feedback, I'd also like to hear that as well. But just before I do get into that, if for whatever reason you're stumbling across this show as the first show that you're watching or listening to, this is the Promised Land podcast with me, Scott Saunders, all about Manchester United and the goings on around the football club. I do try and bring more of a balanced viewpoint to what's happening, because generally, with United at 13th in the league as I record this episode, that's not very good, is it? And generally, yeah, I think there's a lot of negativity around the football club at the moment. There can be, when United win games, a lot of positivity, as we've seen in the past, and then things go pear-shaped. But, I try and find a way of balancing what I see and maybe bring in an alternative perspective. Not always the most popular one, but I don't want to come on here and shout and scream and do that kind of thing, because I feel like if you want that, you can maybe go somewhere else. There's definitely plenty of people who do that, and I'm not throwing shade or anything like that. That's each to their own, everybody. But the way that I want to do it is just to, you know, speak frankly, speak openly, speak honestly about what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling, and hopefully take the conversation a bit of a different way. So yeah, please subscribe on Spotify, Apple, etc., etc. Subscribe on YouTube as well, and hit the notification bell. If you would like to watch videos on YouTube, you can hit the notification bell and then get notified as soon as an episode drops. I've not found a way yet or established a regular recording pattern and a regular upload time. Hopefully, I will do that at some point once I know exactly how many episodes I'm doing. I'm kind of at 3, 4 a week at the moment, but who's to say there can't be more? There will be, I think one of the questions or one of the comments that I've got in this show as well is talking about the volume of episodes. So yeah, please hit the notification bell on all the platforms, actually, if that's a thing. And yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Get in the comments, like the streams, like the videos. Maybe I can do some live streams again at some point soon. And that might be a way of getting more people engaged. And I'd maybe like to do that as well. But one thing that I do like to do is not go live straight away or not instantly react to things, because I think that is when emotions are highest, and maybe not the, if I'm coming out here trying to be balanced, then I think a little bit of time to reflect is always a better thing. But it depends. You got to balance staying true to yourself and the growth of the podcast as well. And I do want to grow it. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling about that. I had a bunch of subscribers on YouTube over the last week or two. So really appreciate that. If you're new here, you can subscribe on the audio platforms as well if you can't watch. So please do that. And even if you're not intending to, I would still like you to. That would be fantastic if you could subscribe to the podcast on Apple or Spotify or any of those other audio platforms. Now, for those of you who are new, this podcast has been running for about 4 years now, 4 years-ish, 3.5 years or something like that. And obviously, I started out this podcast with a good friend of mine, Rob Blanchette, who's since sadly left us, and it's been difficult to bring this podcast back. But I feel like I'm in a good flow with it. I'm definitely feeling like this is what Rob would have wanted as well. And enough people have told me that in the recent past to give me enough confidence to say that I will keep doing it, and I will be back. And yeah, no, I suppose we're in that phase now. And I've had a lot of positive feedback. So big thanks to everyone who has given me that feedback. But the podcast started out just around the time that Cristiano Ronaldo rejoined. And obviously, maybe on YouTube. I don't know whether it was going before that. As you can tell, I'm not super on top of exactly when things get going. I think we might have done the audio podcast actually for a little while longer than that. Sorry, I'm freestyling. Yeah, but we definitely started on YouTube around that time of the season when Ronaldo joined. So yeah, we'll hopefully go from strength to strength here. And I do want to try and play around a little bit with YouTube and see if I can grow this a little bit more and a little bit quicker. More regular uploads will really help with that. But yeah, please subscribe wherever and everywhere if that would be okay with you. It would really help me. Anyway, let's. I'm just going to take a sip of a drink and then let's get into the comments. So I'll start out because I've got some screen grabs on my phone, and I did mention there's some like frank comments and feedback as well. And yeah, there we go. Right, I've just tried to find it now. Try and find someone to do this with. It's been terrible lately. Yep. Okay. That granted feedback. I can't. There's too many characters there and letters to be able to repeat that. But honestly, if you feel like that, fantastic. And I do hear that, and I do want to try and improve myself as just talking down the lens to somebody or to you guys. But I do have it in mind to continue or to bring people on. But I don't think what I can say is I don't think there will be a regular podcast guest as frequently as Rob was on the podcast. So if you're standing here or waiting things out, hoping for that, then I don't think that will be something that's happening. Because I really kind of, this is the podcast that I kind of have taken ownership of it now. And I feel like that is, me coming to you guys just straight down the lens, straight down the barrel is maybe the best way to go about it. I'm not saying that I won't bring people on here and there. It's definitely enough comments here to suggest that there's people who want to see that. And that is definitely in my mind as well. But I feel like this is for the volume of episodes that I'm maybe going to go for, I think is probably best and easiest if it's just me coming to you. So that's kind of how I feel about it, and really appreciate John Davis in that. That was from a Spotify, and John Davis replied, "Ignore this. Podcast is cracking and great to see you back so soon, Scott. Keep doing you, mate." And that's exactly what I'm. That's exactly what I'm doing. Thanks, John. Really appreciate that. And look, there's plenty of comments here from loads of people, and I don't know how long this is going to last, but I just wanted to shout out Clive Davis as well, who commented on that same audio on Spotify, but also has recently said in one of the most recent episodes I've uploaded, Scott, great episode as always, and just so you know, the quality podcasts are truly appreciated. Keep up the good work and cannot wait for you when you have some guests on as promised. And yes, that is something that I would like to do. So bear with me, but I think in terms of volume, most of the time it'll be me, but I'm definitely working on it behind the scenes. So yeah, stick with me. And if there's people on, I will specify that as I kind of communicate that the episode is around. So yeah, thanks for those comments there from Manchester Madness on YouTube. I love this podcast, Scott. Look forward to hearing from you. Best of luck to all in the new year. And I think these comments here are from the first video that I did, or the first episode back that I did after joining the Sports Social Network. So I think the title of that YouTube video is something that maybe I just said thank you in it, I think. And I think it shook people up a little bit, but yeah, yeah, there it is. Pedro Camino, MUFC. Phew, thanks, Scott. I thought you were closing the podcast for more episodes and a new era of TPL. Let's go. Restroom for customers only. Seeing this video drop was like a breath of fresh air. Been missing my favorite podcast for a while. Great to see you. Come on, United. But having people say that this is their favorite podcast, it just blows my mind. Honestly, it's crazy. And if it is yours, like, thank you so much. I really, really mean that. It's a little bit weird, I gotta say. But now this, I don't know if I explained to you in that first episode back that there's been some changes in like occupation and what I'm doing with my career and what I'm planning and that kind of thing. And now I have a lot more time to dedicate to this. The podcast was one small part of a day job that I had in football. And now I've managed to kind of secure the rights to this and take it on, and hopefully I can grow it to good heights and keep that respectable and measured, never too high, never too low tone. There's plenty, so much never too high, never too low. That thing has really caught on. Lots of comments of that on a number of videos and a number of episodes over the last week or two. So thanks for that. Really appreciate it. And keep your comments coming in as well. Like I say, hopefully I can make this a regular thing, and I can maybe look back on the week that's passed to touch base with some of your comments. Obviously, this is me going back now a couple of weeks, but yeah, there's plenty to come. So Tempe 104 says, you're a great friend, Scott. We all miss Rob too. Cheers to more episodes. I remember Rob did scouting videos for players. We're close to getting Caicedo on his channel, where he chats with journalists who are familiar with that league, to give us a picture on what kind of players United might get. Those are my favorite episodes. Noted. I have written that down, and that is something that I would like to do as well. I did maybe a little bit of a section about Patrick Dorgu the other day, and I do have a mate actually who is Italian and a keen follower of Serie A, so maybe I can reach out to him and have a little bit more of a deep dive, because as I record this, United have put a second bid in for Patrick Dorgu, and I don't know whether that's likely to happen, but to me, it does seem like it is. So potentially there may be something to do a little bit deeper on Patrick Dorgu in the weeks to come. But yeah, definitely I'll keep that in mind about chatting with other people, more obscure players that maybe people don't know, getting experts to talk about them. And I would, yeah, definitely that's something I'm exploring. So thanks for that. And Andy Moore, I wanted to put out this comment as well and just say, A, thank you, and B, thinking of you He says, "Thanks, Scott. After all the worst things that's happened in 2024, saying or not being able to say goodbye to friends and loved ones, I lost 3 inside 4 months, including my girlfriend just before Christmas. Love the podcast, mate. I'm incredibly sorry to read that, to hear that, and I just wanted to say thoughts are with you. I hope this podcast can help even a little bit. Even messages like that, just if you like the pod and I can help out at all with anything, then that gives me enough reason to do it. So much love to you. Much love to you. I'll keep scrolling through the comments here. I've put a bunch of them down. Like I said, I don't know how long this is going to last, but yeah, much love to you. As if is now says, Scott, please do more with other journals like Rob and some analysts too. Just address that one, and would like to do that as well. I'm sure there's a few favors I can call on from people who I've worked with in the industry previously. So hopefully, this is one thing for you guys actually. If you got to this point and you want to let me know what you think, I am thinking what I'd like to know maybe is would you like appreciate like an opposing perspective, for example, like United are playing Tottenham in the weeks to come. I've got a ton of Tottenham friends, and talking about kind of match previews with talking about other teams maybe a little bit as well. I'm not sure how regularly I'll be doing that, or maybe you want outside perspectives on what's happening at United from friends and colleagues of mine who support other clubs. Let me know in the comments. If you got this far, get in touch and leave a comment on that to think if that's a good idea, or if you do have any other ideas that you'd like me to press on with, please let me know in those comments as well. King Eric 7 says, great news. I've missed this pod. Hope you're well and looking forward to more content. Do you think you'll be having any guests on? You've probably seen it anyway, but I think James from Muppeteers would be great on the show. He has the same level-headed approach as you and Rob have always taken. Just thought I'd throw it out there. I did meet James actually last summer in Vegas briefly. I had a bit of a chat, but I don't know I don't think I've really crossed his radar since then. But I've seen some of his stuff too. I think it's really good, and obviously big presence on social as well. So maybe that's a person I can reach out to. Ben McManus says, Scott, have you thought about setting up a Discord? I mean this with the utmost sincerity, that hearing reasonable, never too high, never too low points and chatting to like-minded people is a big deal for me. I'm a couple of years older than you, and social media feels over the top for me now. I had to leave Twitter and Facebook because of it, but having a home in the TPL community might be a great way to bring us together. I was thinking of this a year ago or a year or two ago and never acted on it really, but I'll maybe have a think of that. I've never used Discord myself actually. Well, I have the app. I've joined a few Discord groups, but never. It's not something that I do generally and that I partake in, but I do know it's a big thing. And maybe if there's appetite there and people want to join it, then let me know in the comments and maybe I can go about setting one up. Ben, if you'd like it, then let's see what we can do. I definitely get the point about social media though. It's draining. It really is. And Robbie Bob Rob says, go for a daily show. It works wonders for Stretford Paddock. Your sincerity and level-headedness will eventually break through to the masses, and this will take off. It'll take time, but I've no doubt you'll be up in the 100K subscribers in no time. I mean, look, I don't know if I'll ever get there, but, you got to start somewhere, right? So I think this is, as much as the podcast has been going for a while now, I think this, for me, feels like the beginning of it being taken with, 100% focus in my case. Anyway, so look, Paddock are doing great stuff, and I think that my approach to this kind of thing isn't probably the way that you grow quickest. So that's something that I'm very considerate of as well. But it's definitely the way that I prefer to do it. So look, we'll see. I've added a few subscribers over on YouTube over the last few days, so you never know. Fingers crossed. See what happens, eh? Let's move on in a second to Sir Mickley. I'm changing approach here from I'll be honest here. There were a lot of those comments there that I've just picked out that were saying nice things about me, and there were lots of them. So I've kind of felt like I had to do it. It feels a little bit weird to do that and not talk about the actual football, but this is the actual football section. So look, I really appreciate the love and the comments, guys. Thank you so much. But I think we'll move on here to most of the time here talking about football itself and not the podcast. Sir Mickley said on a recent video, it was really criminal of Ten Hag to bench Ahmad for as long as he did. I love how Amarim is leading the team as well, with hard work being the bare minimum, hence why Rashford can't cut it. PS, keep up the good job. Don't stop working hard, as lots of people admire what you're doing and what you and Rob have built. Not many are aware of that you've resumed streaming again. And I believe your number will eventually gradually start to go up. I didn't didn't actually realize that was on the end of the comment. But yeah, like, thank you for that. Thank you so much. Fingers crossed the growth continues to happen, and both on audio and on YouTube as well. But yeah, I think with the Ten Hag Ahmad thing, I didn't think at times that Ahmad had done enough, but we knew that he had potential and talent, but it's got to be really difficult to come into the team, contribute something, get another chance, not contribute in the small window of time that you get, and then you kind of find yourself losing your place to a player that has, in Anthony's case, been sent out on loan to Real Betis, as I say this. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of what Amarim is doing as well, and like Ahmad has really stepped up to the fore there, and is one of United's most important players at the moment. So fingers crossed. He displays the hard work and all of the right attitude, which is necessary to be able to flourish in this United team. And I think that United need more players like that. So fingers crossed they do end up getting more. Monthly Scoop Limited, or LTD, says, I think you're letting off Ineos way too lightly. Yes, the Glazers caused a hell of a mess, but a lot of the measures taken by the new guys are on the back of the weakest, and even without going into moral issues, it has to be asked if the marginal financial gains of these actions are worth the cost in reputation, atmosphere, etc. A football club is more than a business, and some of the things being destroyed were reasons to be proud of. I get that. I do. And I understand the perspective of maybe I am letting Ineos off too lightly. I'll acknowledge that they've made mistakes, and maybe I don't get that across enough, but they definitely have made some mistakes. And, I feel like they're definitely worth criticism. But I think what's happening now, as I explained in the episode that went out on Friday, please go back and listen to it if you haven't done so already. Ineos have come in and they've installed a team of people at the top of the football structure who themselves are responsible now for turning the football club around. But the circumstances that they're in are really, really difficult, and it's going to take time. And I feel like there's a lot of frustration at the moment in the fan base around, oh, well, why aren't we spending loads of money to replace all these players? And it's just not realistic to do that at the moment. And I think I for one appreciate the honesty that's coming out, because not like it's honest, but a lot of the news that the communications from, especially with that letter that was sent out on Thursday, they look at the situation at the football club at the moment, and they understand how difficult a situation this is. And I personally prefer the honesty. I personally prefer the honesty coming out of them. And look, it's, as I expressed in the last episode, Ineos or Jim Ratcliffe have put people in place, and Dave Brailsford have put people in place to nail it from the very beginning of the season. People joined late, a little too late for my liking, but they definitely, looking back on it now, didn't get the first summer transfer window 100% right. Absolutely. And it seems like Ineos are getting the blame for this, but there's a football structure in place now which have been employed by them. And I think what they'd identified with that football structure was a group of people that they thought could work together. And it turns out that I think there was a little bit of disagreement in there, and Dan Ashworth ended up paying with his job after Eric Ten Hag had left as well. And now I feel like there's a tighter structure, tighter knit structure in there who are on the same page. And one thing Ineos have done is employ football people straight away, and it just will take some time to make a difference. But look, I think a lot of the measures that they're taking, that you're talking about there, it's the ticketing stuff. It does bother me, and I completely understand that, and it's really not a good look. And I completely disagree with the £66 prices. And I think, as I touched on in the last podcast, the economic climate of the UK, especially at the moment, it does not. That is not. It's not realistic to expect that people will pay that, and to bring in a new generation of fans who those tickets are massively overpriced, and you're paying massive amounts of money on tickets just to watch the worst version of United in the last 30 years. So I completely understand that. I completely get that. And I don't want that approach to ticketing is poor and awful. Like I feel like this should be completely valid complaints. Um I I do think though they're just looking at this, all these measures on the whole, um and just thinking about how they can get the club on a level footing as quickly as possible. There's some decisions which I disagree with. There's some decisions which I agree with, and I understand. So yeah, it's a difficult situation, but I don't think people understand, or people want to kind of vocalize the difficulty that this group of people have had coming into the club. And I feel like the Glazer family and their irresponsible running of Manchester United for the 19-ish years previous to Ineos coming in, that is the cause of frustration. That should be the main cause of complaint and concern. I know that there were tons of protests over the years around the ownership and around the money being taken out of the club. But there's a new group of people in here now who are trying to fix a broken system and a broken football club, and they have to take unpopular decisions. And look, we're not going to like them all. I'm not going to like them all. It does really damage the relationships with the fans. But I think a lot of these measures that they're taking in terms of, offloading players is just, I think it's all done with an interest of getting United back to A, sustainable footing, and B, back up the table and back performing. So that's kind of how I feel about it. There's definitely moral issues, which I acknowledge. But I feel like there's another side of it which is really difficult for anybody who doesn't have state money, to deal with. And I think everybody wants United to be a sustainable business. And yeah, that's it's a difficult one. Football is more than the business, and some of the things being destroyed were reasons to be proud of. I agree with that. I do. But at the same point, if United aren't succeeding as a business, there's no football club. So that needs to be the focus for the short term while, I think. I had a following comment from AS, I think. So you think we're better off without the Qatari takeover? How bad does it have to get for you to change your mind? Relegation? Look, I said it on the last episode that if that bid was as serious as it was made out, they would have got it. They would have got the club. They would have. There was nothing apart from the promise of like a $6 billion offer. There was nothing underneath that, and there's definitely a crew of full sale, a large majority of full sale only. Look, I'd have preferred a full sale. Absolutely. Absolutely would have preferred a full sale. But I think there's people are yearning for that to happen. I like, if they truly wanted the club as much as they said that they did publicly, they would have got it, because there's unlimited money there. You know, That's kind of how I feel about it. And we look back on it now, that move didn't happen. That bid didn't happen. It wasn't successful. There's a different group of people in charge now, and they are trying to do it a different way. And we can look back all we want and say, no, I would have preferred full sale. That's not what we got. It's not what we got. So we can spend all our time, thinking about like what it could have been on the other side, but that's not going to happen. It's not a reality. So that's how I feel about it. And for what it's worth, I do think United are in a bad position at the moment, but my faith that they will turn it around remains. Robbie Bob Rob says, I've said this on another video, Scott, but honestly, year after year after year, we say an overhaul needs to happen. It's going to take time. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Well, this is that. As soon as this begins, we hit the panic button every time. But once we just have to accept that this is what really tearing it down and rebuilding actually is. No short-term fixes anymore. Let's see this out. I have total faith in Amorim. If finishing 17th this season meant that we finally see steps toward progress next season, I gladly take it. Completely agree with you. Completely agree with you. So long as they don't get relegated, if they can take the measures to fix the club properly for the long term, you take another 16 games or so of form, which is all over the shop and poor performances. But I do trust, I think Ruben Amorim is a really, really good coach. And I feel like they need to modernize the football team and modernize the playing staff that they have to be able to deal with the rigors of modern football. I think he's a coach who's tactically up there with the best of them and has proven that in Champions League matches against, and Europa League matches against Arsenal, against Manchester City, with Sporting as well. So that Robbie Bob Rob says exactly that, and I completely agree. I agree. Carl Calicoda says, Cherki for 18 million is an absolute steal and will be a massive cure when teams decide to park the bus or go 1v1 against us. But most importantly, it's his range of passing we need in that midfield. I don't know if they're looking at him. I haven't seen anything to suggest that they are, but I have seen that price is, in the recent days anyway, that is a price that would be able to get him. For what I have heard is, I think United do need to get the right characters, and in the past I have heard that in terms of the character fit, maybe he isn't right for a number of clubs, and maybe that's why he hasn't moved yet, and he is going for that cheap. Don't doubt his talent though. So look, we'll see how that develops, and maybe if United do end up selling a Garnacho or something like that, then a player like that might come on the radar. We'll see. Liam Clark says, this squad absolutely cannot handle relying on even more young players. The step up in pressure from a 20-year-old from Lecce to United is huge. He would be fine as a backup or long-term succession plan behind a left wing back in their prime. If these are the sort of signings we're going to make, expect to be finishing bottom half of the table for another few seasons. We'd be much better getting a loan signing and wait until a prime 22, 27-year-old left wing back proven at the right level is available. I get what you're saying, Liam. I do. But there's a couple of things here. I think United's position here, they can't really go out and spend loads of money on another left wing back on top of that, who is 26 or whatever. There are players that they're going to need to shift within the club that are going to, be able to create space for signings to be made. I do get the side of the young player argument. It is a lot to take on. I agree. But for me, it's fostering the right culture between the walls within the club. It's building a physically and technically capable team to be able to execute the game plan. And there's pressure, obviously, which is massively on United. But I think what Ruben Amorim wants and what he said in one of the recent matches was we were losing 3-1 to Brighton, and then the players started doing whatever they wanted to do in the 90th minute or whatever. That's not what I want. I want my players to absolutely go by every single thing that I say correctly every single time, right to the end, right from the beginning. And that, in a sense, if you're working to a system like that and you believe in it, and you trust in Amarim. Obviously, you do need a good mix and good blend of young players and like top professionals and experienced players for them to learn from. But I think that there's still room for a couple of players of that age to come in. I think anyway. I personally think, and if anything, football clubs who are succeeding now have been buying players like that of that age at lower pressure football clubs, obviously, but have been buying players at that age and managing to do exactly what I've just mentioned at their own clubs. Finding coaches that they trust, getting tactics across right, and then being able to express themselves. That is a position that United need to get to. And I think Dorgu is, we heard of him for a little while, not seen loads of him, and like I said the other day, but that's just the reality of where United are at the moment. And I feel like Diego Leon, who's younger than that, obviously, is maybe that backup long-term succession plan behind Dorgu. Maybe he's a bit younger than we'd like. But at the same time, I feel like the way that United are going to get themselves out of this mess is to buy players who are relatively cheap, but quite young, that can grow with the team over the next few years. So, look, like I say, I think this is a young person's game more than it's ever been before. So you just have to pick your battles, really. Angelo Joaquin says, this is a longer one. I definitely don't like the rhetoric that United needs players for X or Y manager system. It gives the false idea that the problem lies only on the inadequacy of this player to play a certain system. I believe the root of the problem is a bit deeper, and you've nailed it in a recent podcast. The majority of these players are not fit to play elite in modern football, regardless of the system or formation. A rebuild will be necessary, and it's not because Amarim plays in a 3-4-3, but because United is an elite club with a team of average players who are not good enough to play at this level. They proved it countless times, and the new coach said it many times in different words. Now it's up to everyone else who likes the club to understand its reality. I agree with you. I believe Ineos have good intentions regarding the club interest, and we shouldn't measure it only by their willingness to spend money in the winter transfer window. I ran the numbers yesterday, still going. I ran the numbers yesterday, and they nearly spent 250 million in the summer, so it's understandable that the policy for January will be sell to buy. United aren't City or owned by people who are willing to lavishly throw money around. And unfortunately, this approach may mean that fan favorites are sold to increase the expenditure ceiling. But as you said, these are the intricacies of modern football. Even if United is fairly quiet during this window, I do expect the summer to be busy. There'll be an exodus of players and likely the same amount of players arriving. Until then, I hope Amarim can stand firm and lead the team next season. Echo you completely. I agree. And yeah, I do think that there's not a lot of wiggle room. We haven't seen United sign players yet this month, but we know why. They've always said and been honest about it being sell to buy, and now they're getting to starting to clear the decks towards the end of the window, because that's what always happens, really. Clubs try and play off each other, crank up the pressure in terms of how much, work against the clock in a sense to try and get the best deal. That probably happen over the next week or two. And I think that's just the way that United are in. That's just the place that United are in at the moment. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think we just need to be patient, to be honest. I think patience is required. It seems like we've been saying that forever, but just a little while longer for me. Jason H 1020 says, I can't agree with United being favourites in the Europa League. I don't trust this lot at all. We got booped off the park by Brighton. I agree. Look, for what it's worth, I do think United have a really good chance in the Europa League. And I do think that the team and Amarim are probably suited to tournament football. And United are, player by player, one of the strongest teams in that competition. Or the strongest team in that competition. So, yeah, that's just how it is. But I don't trust this lot at all. I don't either. And Brighton did outplay United at home. So don't be surprised if there's a day which United get some kind of upset in the competition. There's a couple more comments that I just want to touch on before we finish up here. Jalen757 says, keep these coming, Scott. It's just about the only United content I can watch at the moment due to everything being so negative. It just makes you more depressed. I have to remember never too high, never too low. Yeah. Everything is negative. And yes, it does. You get kind of stuck in that doom scrolling loop of this has gone wrong today. This has gone wrong today. This player wants to leave. This player has said this. This player's brother has posted this on social media, and now it's embarrassing the club or whatever. Or this player's being sold. Yeah, it's difficult to get away from. It is. There's been times I haven't wanted to watch or talk about Man United a lot over the last few years. I get it. I understand. I've been there too. And like Hallam's still there quite a bit. But yes, I'll try and keep them coming best I can. And final one from Steve Hug 83. This problem has been 12 years in the making. It's not going to be rectified in one January window. The players we want to sell are basically unsellable. Things are going to get a little worse before they get better. And I think that's probably where it's best to leave it. And I do agree with that. Just be prepared for not instant fixes. But I think if United were going out and doing instant fixes, I'd be a little bit more worried that they weren't fixed in the long term. There's decisions to take on. The outlay on Casemiro, for example, means that in terms of his wages and the amortization and the transfer fee on his PSR, on his for in terms of PSR rules on his contract, the United are going to need to get a certain fee in order to kind of balance the books on him, and they're trying to work profit, on the books by players that they're selling or that they're offloading. So, yeah, it's a difficult situation that United are in, and don't expect things to turn around properly for a few months yet, but like just have faith that the right things are being done. I think the right things are being done behind the scenes. In a lot of cases, there's definitely, as I said, stuff that I don't agree with what they're doing, but I don't doubt the intention being there that they would like to turn the football club around. So I'll leave it there. But yeah, thanks so much for all your comments, everyone. Really, really appreciate everybody getting in touch. Please keep them coming. There's been some stuff that I've said in this podcast as well, where I've asked for more feedback and more comments. So please keep those coming. And let me know about things that you'd like me to do in the future. And I'll definitely endeavor to bring you more podcasts, informative stuff. Maybe I can call on some favors from some mates and things like that to jump on the podcast as well and give you something a little bit different and not only my voice all the time. So yeah, thanks so much, everyone. Please follow me on social media at @Scott Saunders on X, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on Blue Sky as well. The link is in the description. And please subscribe to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, etc., etc. Hit the notification bell, subscribe to the podcast, get in touch, and subscribe on YouTube as well. The Promise and a Manchester United podcast. Like this video, like the videos that I do all the time. Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. And until next time, I'll see you after Fulham. Let's hope United can keep or win a second game in a row. Fingers crossed. We'll see. But I don't trust it. Anyway, till next time, this has been the Promise and podcast. Thanks so much.